In this video I'm showing the minimal head adjustment against the column. So the first we have to adjust the Y position. This is measurements taken at the head with head in the lowest position and the dial indicator 0 set to the middle of the range, which is inside 1 thou. After that we have to take measurements with the upper head position, and here we can see the range is between -10 and +2. So the average, the middle of the range, is -4. That means that the round bar we are using for adjustment is inclined on the picture from the right to the left. The only way to adjust the Y angle of the head on the minimal is to use shims between the head carriage and head itself. So it's pretty tedious process, and I have to try different thickness of the filling gauge and take measurements with the lifted head and head in the lower position again and again until I have good results. So this is the shim I selected, which showed the best results for the Y angle of the spindle. Let me show you what measurements I got with this shim between the head carriage and spindle box. So at the headstock, or with the lowest position of the head, the range is within 1 thou, and you can see that I set the 0 on the dial indicator to the middle of the range. And after we lifted the head to the upper position, we can see that the range is between -5 and 5 and 5 and 8. So it looks like this is the best results I could take. Just keep in mind that the bolts between the spindle box and the carriage are loosened, and after they are tightened, we will have some changes to these measurements. Next step is the X-axis alignment. To make it more controlled, I created this small frame which is mounted on the carriage. And this is two aluminum flat plates which are tightened together with threaded rods, and there are 4 set screws to adjust the position of the spindle box on the carriage. So this is the head in the lowest position, and the dial indicator is taking measurements in horizontal direction. In this position of the head, I am setting the 0 on indicator to the middle of the range in the lowest head position. And after that I move the head to the upper position, and I'm taking measurements here. So as you can see, dial indicator shows between 0 and minus 12. So the average and the middle of the range is minus 6 thou. So using the set screws on the adjustment frame, I am moving the head so that the 0 on the dial indicator is pointing to the middle of the range. And again, I am setting the head to the lowest position and taking the measurements again. As you can see, the range moved from 0 to the positive direction. Here in the lowest head position, I don't touch the head position itself. I just move the dial indicator 0 to the middle of the range. After the dial indicator is set with its 0 to the middle of the range, I lifted the head and taken the measurements again. After this adjustment, range did not change, but we can see that the numbers are changed, so they move to the positive direction by 2 thou. Now range is from 2 thou to minus 10. And the average, the middle of the range, is moved to the positive direction. Now it's minus 4 thou. We're going back to the lowest head position and adjust the dial indicator. Yeah, the 0 on the dial indicator is now set so that the dial indicator hand is playing around it equally. And again we're going back to the highest head position, and now the range is from plus 4 to minus 8. So as you can see, with repeating these steps, we are moving the upper head position range to 0 direction, from negative to 0 direction. Again, after I adjusted the head position with the adjustment screws, I'm taking the measurements of the headstock again. And again, I have to set the 0 on the dial indicator to the middle of the upper lowest position range. Moving the head up. And again, we can see that the range moved to the positive direction again. And now the middle of the range is just half a thou in the negative section. We are pretty close to full alignment. And after the head is aligned in this step, so that 0 on the dial indicator shows at the middle of the range, we are going back to the lowest position of the head. And now it looks like I don't have to move the dial indicator anymore. 0 on the dial indicator shows the middle of the range. Now I would like to show you how to tighten the 4 bolts which have to firm the carriage and the head together, not taking the head from the column. To do this, I'm going to use sort of a flying rake. Rake is freely moving on the column, and using the holes on the column and that big hole on the lower part of the column, we can actually move the carriage to any position on the column. At the upper position, I just fix the rake with the bolt, and I have to move the carriage to get access to the upper bolts. Okay, both upper bolts are tightened, and now I'm moving the carriage to the lower end. So now I'm just moving the rake downstairs and using the holes temporarily fix the rake in some position and move the carriage until there is no connection between the rake and pinion. I'm moving the rake again. Fix it temporarily and move the carriage down again. Okay, this way the carriage can be moved down until I have access to the lower bolts. Yeah, now I have access to the bolts, to the heads of the bolts, and here I am tightening the lower bolts. To move the carriage up from this position is a little bit tricky, but as I said, we can use that big hole for the bolt which connects the column and the mill base. Yeah, now you can see how I use that big hole. Yeah, that's how. Okay, now it goes easier, and yeah, again using the same holes, I move the carriage to the upper position. Now the rake is in the original position, and I can fasten it with its original screw. And finally we have to check what we got after the tightening the bolts. Yeah, here I fastened the upper stopper. Okay, this is set up for checking the X axis position. In the lower position of the head, the dial indicator is set with its 0 to the middle of the range. In this position the range is pretty small, it's within 1 thou. And in the upper head position we are taking the range. Okay, so the range is from +6 to -5. So the middle of the range is +5/10. And here I am checking the Y axis. Yeah, actually I was surprised, but with Y axis, yeah, in the upper position, I have the range from +5 to -5. So the adjusted position of the spindle axis is 0. I'm not sure if it could be done better. But that's it for today, and see you in the next episode.